Somewhere in the ancient Mediterranean, 3,000 years ago, a healer pressed the first drops of oil from a handful of olives and discovered something extraordinary. And somewhere in the mountains of Japan, 2,000 years ago, a different healer pressed oil from a handful of sesame seeds and discovered the same thing. Two healers, two civilizations, two opposite ends of the ancient world. Neither knew the other existed, and yet they arrived at the same truth. Certain oils do not just feed the body. They heal it, not as medicine taken reluctantly, not as bitter herbs swallowed out of necessity, but as daily food, poured generously over vegetables, drizzled into warm broths, rubbed gently into aging joints, morning after morning, year after year, generation after generation. And the people who use these oils daily, the Mediterranean farmers and fishermen, the Japanese elders and mountain healers, lived longer, moved more freely, thought more clearly, and aged more gently than the populations around them. Who did not? Modern science has now spent decades trying to understand why, and the answers documented in clinical trials, peer-reviewed journals, and laboratories around the world are extraordinary. Today we're going to explore 5 of these ancient healing oils in depth. Not just what they are, but the full story of where they came from, what they do inside the aging body at the cellular level, why seniors over 60 stand to benefit from them most, and exactly how to bring them into your daily life simply, gently, and immediately. Stick around for oil number 3. Because this one has been sitting quietly in Japanese kitchens for over 1,000 years, almost completely unknown in the Western world. And researchers studying it now are calling it one of the most powerful natural brain-protecting substances ever identified in a plant food. And oil number 4, reserved for centuries only for Japanese samurai and imperial nobility, was shown in a 2022 clinical study to reduce the primary blood marker of inflammation in seniors over 60 as effectively as low-dose medication, with 0 side effects, 0 cost to the organs, and 1,000 years of human evidence behind every drop. If you want ancient healing wisdom backed by modern science delivered to you every single week, subscribe right now. Because what is coming to this channel is going to permanently change the way you think about healing. Let us begin. Oil number 1, extra virgin olive oil, the most studied healing oil on Earth. The olive tree is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history. Archaeological evidence shows that olive oil was being produced in the Eastern Mediterranean as far back as 6,000 years ago. The ancient Greeks built entire economies around it. Athletes rubbed it into their skin before competition. Physicians prescribed it for wounds, joint pain, digestive disorders, and the weakness of old age. Roman soldiers carried it on every campaign, not just for cooking, but for cleaning wounds, protecting skin from the elements, and maintaining the physical resilience that long military campaigns demanded. Egyptian healers documented its use in over 100 medical preparations. And across the ancient Mediterranean world, from Greece to Rome to North Africa to the Middle East, olive oil was understood to be simultaneously food, medicine, and sacred substance. This was not superstition. This was 3,000 years of careful human observation, watching what happened to the people who used olive oil daily versus the people who did not, and what they observed, generation after generation, was that the olive oil users lived longer, healed faster, moved more freely into old age, and suffered less from the inflammatory conditions that crippled their peers. They did not know why. They simply knew it was true. Modern science has now explained the mechanism with extraordinary precision. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the most rigorously studied foods on Earth. Its primary healing compound, a polyphenol called oleocanthal, was identified by researchers at the Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia in 2005. And what they found was remarkable. Oleocanthal works in the body almost identically to ibuprofen at reducing inflammation, inhibiting the same COX-1 and COX-2 inflammatory enzymes that anti-inflammatory medications target, but without the side effects on the stomach lining, the kidneys, and the cardiovascular system that long-term ibuprofen use carries. side effects that are particularly dangerous for seniors whose organ function is already under the strain of age. The landmark Perilla clinical trial, one of the largest and most rigorous nutrition studies ever conducted, followed over 7,000 adults across multiple years and found that those consuming extra virgin olive oil as their primary fat had a 30% lower risk of major cardiovascular events, including heart attack and stroke. 30% from an oil used consistently, daily for 3,000 years. Additional research has shown that the polyphenol in extra virgin olive oil crossed the blood-brain barrier, directly reducing the neuroinflammation that is increasingly linked to Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. A study published in the Annals of Clinical and Translational Neurology found that extra virgin olive oil consumption was associated with a preservation of memory and learning ability in aging populations and with a reduction of the toxic protein plaques that accumulate in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. Why seniors need this most? For seniors specifically, the benefits of extra virgin olive oil address the most critical health concerns of the aging years simultaneously. Cardiovascular protection. As the heart and blood vessels become more vulnerable with age, the antiplatelet and anti-inflammatory effects of oleocanthal provide daily, gentle, cumulative protection. Joint health. As cartilage thins and joint inflammation increases with age, the natural COX-inhibiting effects reduce pain and stiffness without the organ strain of pharmaceutical alternatives. Brain protection. As cognitive function becomes the primary concern of seniors and their families, the neuroprotective polyphenol in extra virgin olive oil provide documented, evidence-based daily protection for the aging mind. In bone health, studies have shown that the polyphenol in olive oil stimulate osteocalcin production, a protein essential for bone formation and density, making it directly protective against the osteoporosis that affects so many seniors, particularly women after menopause. 1. Oil. 4 of the most critical senior health concerns, all addressed simultaneously, every single day. How to use it daily. The most important thing to understand about extra virgin olive oil is that quality is everything. The difference between a genuine cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil and a refined, diluted, or adulterated oils that fill most supermarket shelves is not a small difference. It is the difference between medicine and imitation. When you buy olive oil, look for these things. Dark glass bottle. Light degrades the polyphenol rapidly. Cold-pressed and unfiltered on the label. Explicitly stated. Harvest date, not just an expiry date. Fresh olive oil from the most recent harvest contains dramatically more polyphenol than oil that is 2 or 3 years old. And taste it. Real extra virgin olive oil should taste green, grassy, and distinctly peppery at the back of the throat. That pepper sensation is oleocanthal activating the same nerve receptors that ibuprofen activates. That is the medicine announcing itself. Traditional use, 1 to 2 tablespoons daily. Drizzled generously over vegetables, grains, soups, and cooked foods after they have been removed for heat. Never heat olive oil to smoking point. Above approximately 190 degrees Celsius, the polyphenol begins to degrade and the oil loses much of its healing value. Use it raw as much as possible. Pour it generously. The ancient Mediterranean world did not measure it in careful teaspoons. They poured it over everything. And they lived extraordinarily long, healthy lives as a result. Oil number 2. Japanese sesame oil. 2,000 years of daily healing. Sesame is one of the oldest oilseed crops in human history, cultivated across Asia and the Middle East for over 5,000 years. In Japan, sesame and sesame oil have been deeply woven into both the culinary and medicinal traditions for over 1,500 years. In traditional Japanese medicine, the system called Kampo, which has been practiced continuously since the 6th century, sesame oil appears repeatedly in formulas prescribed for inflammatory conditions, cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, liver weakness, and the general frailty of old age. Japanese grandmothers have drizzled toasted sesame oil over vegetables, noodles, and rice every single day for generations beyond counting. Not because it tasted good, although it does, but because they understood, through generations of accumulated wisdom, that it made people feel better, that it reduced pain, that it supported the liver, that it kept the mind clear and the body moving well into old age. They did not have the language of biochemistry to explain why. But they were right. Modern research has now identified the specific compounds in sesame oil that produce its remarkable healing effects. Sesame oil contains 2 unique lignans, sesamin and sesamoline, found in significant concentrations in almost no other food on Earth. Sesame has been shown in clinical research to significantly reduce LDL cholesterol, the harmful form that accumulates in arterial walls and drives cardiovascular disease, while simultaneously raising HDL, the protective cholesterol that carries fats away from the arteries. It reduces blood pressure through multiple mechanisms, including the inhibition of an enzyme called angiotensin-converting enzyme, the same target that certain blood pressure medications act upon. And it has documented liver protective effects, reducing the oxidative stress on liver cells that accumulates with age, medication use, and environmental toxin exposure. Sesame converts in the body to a compound called sesamol, which has demonstrated remarkable neuroprotective properties in research settings. Studies have found that sesamol protects brain cells from the oxidative damage and inflammation that accumulate with age, reducing the cellular damage that contributes to memory loss and cognitive decline. An animal study published in Nutritional Neuroscience found that sesame oil supplementation produced significant improvements in memory, learning capacity, and brain cell preservation, with effects that researchers described as neuroprotective at the structural level. Human trials are ongoing, but 1,500 years of Japanese traditional medicine has been pointing in this direction with extraordinary consistency. For seniors, the particular combination of benefits that sesame oil provides addresses a cluster of age-related concerns that are deeply interconnected. The liver, which declines in function with age, becomes burdened by medications and loses its efficiency at filtering toxins and regulating metabolism, is directly supported by sesame at the cellular level. A healthy liver in a senior means better medication processing, better toxin elimination, better cholesterol regulation, and better energy metabolism. The cardiovascular system, which becomes progressively more vulnerable as arterial flexibility declines and inflammatory burden increases, benefits from the dual action of sesame reducing LDL, while simultaneously protecting the arterial walls from oxidative damage. And the brain, the organ that seniors and their families fear for most deeply, receives direct protection through sesamol's neuroprotective effects on the neurons themselves. One small daily drizzle of sesame oil. 3 of the most critical organ systems in the senior body, supported simultaneously. How to use it daily. Toasted sesame oil, the dark, intensely fragrant variety, is the most commonly used form in Japanese cuisine. It is used as a finishing oil added after cooking is complete, because its delicate compounds degrade at high temperatures. 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon drizzled over finished dishes, vegetables, rice, noodles, soups, and salad dressings. Cold-pressed raw sesame oil, lighter in color and flavor, is more stable at moderate heat and can be used for gentle cooking. The key is daily consistency. Not a large amount used occasionally, but a small, deliberate amount used every single day. That is how Japanese elders have used it for 1,500 years. That is how the healing accumulates, quietly, steadily, beautifully. My grandmother kept this on her table every single morning of her life. This exact oil. This exact bottle. This exact ritual. Before breakfast was served, before anything else happened in her kitchen, she would drizzle a small amount of sesame oil over whatever vegetables she had prepared. I asked her once, I was perhaps 8 years old, I asked her why she always did that. She set the bottle down. She looked at me very carefully, and she said, because my grandmother did it, and her grandmother before her. And because every woman in this family who did this thing lived a long and healthy life. I did not understand then what she was giving me in that answer. She was not giving me a recipe. She was giving me a lineage, a chain of women stretching back further than I could imagine, who had paid close attention to what kept their families well, who had noticed, generation after generation, that this small daily act made a difference they could feel. My grandmother lived to 93. She drizzled sesame oil over her vegetables the morning before she died. I think about that often. The healing is not in one bottle. It is in the consistency. It is in the daily return, morning after morning, to the things that nourish you. We have 3 more oils to explore today. And I truly believe, that each one holds something your body has been waiting for. Stay with me. Oil number 3. Perilla Oil. Japan's most powerful brain oil that the Western world has never heard of. Perilla oil is pressed from the seeds of Camellia perilla plant, the same plant that produces the shiso leaf sitting quietly on the edge of every sushi plate that most Western diners push aside. In Japan, perilla has been cultivated for over 2,000 years, used in cooking and medicine, and in the preservation of food through its natural antimicrobial properties. Traditional Japanese medicine prescribed perilla oil for respiratory conditions, digestive weakness, depression and emotional imbalance, and the cognitive decline associated with aging. In traditional Korean and Chinese medicine, both of which share deep roots with Japanese Kampo, perilla oil was used for similar purposes, prescribed by healers who had observed its effects on mood, memory, and physical vitality across hundreds of years of practice. In the modern Western world, almost nobody knows it exists. Walk into any supermarket in Europe or America, and you will find dozens of oils: olive, sunflower, canola, coconut, avocado. You will almost certainly not find perilla oil. That is one of the most significant nutritional oversights of the modern era. Perilla oil contains the highest concentration of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, of any plant oil on Earth. ALA is a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, the essential fat that the body converts into EPA and DHA. The long-chain omega-3 fats that build and maintain brain cell membranes, support the nervous system, and drive the anti-inflammatory processes that protect every organ in the body. For the aging brain and nervous system, these essential fats are not optional. They are structural. They are literally what the brain is made of. As we age and dietary omega-3 intake is not adequately maintained, brain cell membranes become less fluid, less functional, and more vulnerable to the inflammatory damage that underlies cognitive decline, mood disorders, and memory loss. Perilla oil corrects this at the most fundamental level, providing the raw material the brain needs to maintain itself. Research has shown that perilla oil reduces inflammatory markers in the blood, supports healthy blood pressure through its omega-3 content, reduces allergic inflammatory responses in the respiratory system, and provides direct neuroprotection through its high rosmarinic acid content. Rosmarinic acid, also found abundantly in the shiso leaves of the same plant, is one of the most potent natural neuroprotective compounds identified in food research. Studies have shown rosmarinic acid directly reduces neuroinflammation, the chronic, low-grade inflammation of brain tissue that is increasingly recognized as the primary driver of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and age-related cognitive decline. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Science and Vitaminology found that elderly Japanese adults consuming perilla oil daily showed significantly better lipid profiles and inflammatory markers than age-matched control groups, with effects that researchers described as clinically meaningful for cardiovascular and cognitive protection. The omega-3 crisis in senior populations is one of the most underappreciated nutritional problems of our time. As people age, the conversion of ALA to DHA, the omega-3 fat most critical for brain function, becomes progressively less efficient. Seniors need more dietary omega-3 at precisely the time when their bodies are becoming less able to produce it internally. And most seniors are not eating the 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week that will provide adequate omega-3 from animal sources. For seniors who do not eat fish regularly, or who want to significantly increase their omega-3 intake through plant sources, perilla oil is one of the most powerful and most direct solutions available anywhere. Beyond the brain, the cardiovascular protection of regular omega-3 intake is among the best documented nutritional interventions in medicine, reducing triglycerides, supporting healthy blood pressure, reducing arterial inflammation, and lowering the risk of the cardiovascular events that remain the leading cause of death in senior populations worldwide. Perilla oil is delicate. Its omega-3 compounds, the very compounds that make it so powerfully healing, are sensitive to heat, light, and air. It must never be heated. It must be stored in the refrigerator. It must be used within 2 months of opening. 1 teaspoon daily, added to salad dressings, drizzled over cooked vegetables after they have been removed from heat, mixed gently into miso soup just before serving, or taken directly from the spoon as a daily supplement. Find it in Japanese grocery stores or health food shops labeled as perilla seed oil or igoma oil. This is the oil that Japanese healers have been prescribing for 2,000 years for the exact symptoms: cognitive decline, mood imbalance, inflammatory pain that most concern seniors today. The Western world simply has not discovered it yet. You have now. Oil number 4. Camellia Oil. The oil the samurai trusted. The oil science just rediscovered. In feudal Japan, the era of samurai warriors, noble households, and the imperial court, Camellia oil was so prized that it was reserved almost exclusively for the highest echelons of society. Pressed from the seeds of the Camellia japonica flower, the same camellia that blooms every winter across Japan with its perfect, waxy white flowers, Camellia oil was used by samurai warriors to maintain their weapons, to protect and condition their skin against the elements of campaign, and to nourish their bodies through the extreme physical demands of a warrior's life. Traditional Japanese medicine prescribed it for digestive health and gut inflammation, for joint pain and muscular stiffness in aging warriors and elders, for skin conditions and wound healing, and for what Kampo healers described as the maintenance of Junin Nakarada, a supple, flexible, resilient body that moves without restriction regardless of age. Japanese women of the imperial court used camellia oil on their skin and hair, a practice called tsubaki beauty, understanding intuitively that what deeply nourishes the outside of the body reflects what is happening inside it. This intuition was correct. Camellia oil contains the highest concentration of oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat, of any plant oil on Earth, even higher than olive oil. Oleic acid is critically important for understanding aging at the cellular level. Human cell membranes, the protective outer layer of every cell in the body, are composed primarily of fatty acids. The ratio and type of these fatty acids determines how fluid, flexible, and functionally efficient each cell membrane is. When the body receives abundant oleic acid from dietary sources, particularly from whole plant oils, cell membranes remain fluid and highly functional, supporting the efficient exchange of nutrients, oxygen, and cellular waste across the membrane. As we age, particularly as diets shift toward processed foods and refined oils containing different fatty acid profiles, cell membranes become progressively more rigid. This membrane rigidity is directly linked to increased systemic inflammation, declining cognitive function, metabolic dysfunction, impaired immune response, and the general physical stiffness that most seniors associate with the normal process of aging. It is not inevitable. It is nutritional. And camellia oil addresses it at the most fundamental level, at the membrane of every cell in the body. The landmark 2022 clinical study published in the peer-reviewed journal Nutrients, which I mentioned at the opening of this video, found that daily camellia oil consumption in adults over 60 produced significant reductions in C-reactive protein, the primary blood marker of systemic inflammation, with effects comparable to low-dose anti-inflammatory medication in the participating senior population. The researchers noted that the effects were achieved without any adverse events, no organ strain, no medication interactions, no side effects of any kind. Just a daily healing oil. Used the way Japanese seniors have used it for 1,000 years. The cellular membrane aging that oleic acid addresses is one of the most universal and underappreciated aspects of physical decline in seniors. When cells cannot efficiently exchange nutrients and waste, every system in the body suffers. Energy levels decline because cells cannot efficiently produce ADP, the body's energy currency. Cognitive function declines because neurons cannot efficiently transmit electrical signals across stiffened membranes. Immune function declines because immune cells cannot efficiently identify and respond to pathogens and damaged tissue. Joint health declines because the cells lining joint spaces cannot efficiently produce and maintain synovial fluid. Camellia oil addresses all of these through the restoration of healthy cell membrane composition, the most fundamental biological intervention a senior can make through daily food. Camellia oil is uniquely stable at high heat, making it one of the few genuinely healing oils that can be used for everyday cooking without degrading its compounds. Use it for stir-frying, sautéing, roasting vegetables, and everyday cooking in place of refined vegetable oils. 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon daily in cooking is the traditional Japanese amount. It can also be applied directly to skin, massaged gently into dry areas, stiff joints, and the face and neck as a deeply penetrating natural moisturizer and anti-inflammatory. Japanese women who have maintained this daily tsubaki skin practice for decades show remarkable skin preservation, the softness and elasticity that is the visible evidence of what healthy cell membranes look like from the outside. Find it as tsubaki oil in Japanese beauty stores and online. The same oil works for cooking and skin. 1 bottle. 2 powerful daily practices. The samurai and the imperial ladies of Japan understood this 1,000 years before the clinical researchers caught up. Oil number 5. Coconut oil. The ancient brain fuel that crosses every tradition. Coconut oil sits at a remarkable crossroads of ancient healing traditions from across the entire world. Used continuously for over 4,000 years across Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands, South Asia, and the tropical regions of the ancient world, coconut oil was independently discovered by multiple civilizations as a food, a medicine, and a healer of the skin, the digestive system, and the immune function. In Okinawa, Japan's famous longevity island, home to some of the longest living people on Earth, coconut products have been integrated into the traditional diet for centuries, carried along the ancient sea trade routes that connected Okinawa to Southeast Asia and the broader Pacific world. Okinawan healers valued coconut oil for its ability to support what they described as the vital energy of the gut, the digestive fire that they believed was the foundation of all physical health and mental clarity. They were, as we now understand, precisely correct. Coconut oil contains a unique class of fatty acids called medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs, that are processed by the body in a fundamentally different way from all other dietary fats. Most fats, both saturated and unsaturated, must be packaged into complex structures called chylomicrons in the digestive system before they can enter the bloodstream. This process takes time and energy and results in fats being primarily transported to fat storage tissue. MCTs bypass this entire process. They travel directly from the gut to the liver via the portal vein, where they are converted almost immediately into ketone bodies. Ketone bodies are an alternative fuel source that every cell in the body, and most critically the brain, can use directly for energy. This alternative fuel pathway becomes extraordinarily important in the context of aging and cognitive decline. The brain's ability to use glucose, its primary fuel, becomes impaired. Neurons that cannot get adequate glucose begin to malfunction and die. But those same neurons can still use ketones efficiently, even when their glucose metabolism is impaired. Providing the brain with a daily source of ketone fuel through MCT-rich coconut oil is one of the most evidence-supported nutritional interventions for cognitive support in aging seniors. A clinical trial at the University of Oxford found that MCT supplementation in older adults with mild cognitive impairment produced measurable improvements in memory, attention, and cognitive function within just 3 months of daily use. Coconut oil also contains lauric acid, a medium-chain fatty acid that has documented antimicrobial properties against a remarkably broad spectrum of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, directly supporting the immune function that naturally declines with age. The combination of brain fuel support and immune enhancement that coconut oil provides addresses two of the most critical and interconnected concerns of the senior years. As cognitive function becomes the primary health fear of most seniors, and as families watch their loved ones begin to lose clarity, memory, and the sharpness that define them, the ability to provide the aging brain with an alternative fuel source through daily food represents one of the most accessible and well-supported interventions available. And as immune function declines, making seniors more vulnerable to infections, slow healing, and the opportunistic conditions that take advantage of weakened immunity, the antimicrobial properties of lauric acid provide daily, gentle, cumulative support for the immune system that needs it most. Choose raw, unrefined, cold-pressed coconut oil, the solid white variety that smells distinctly of coconut. Refined, odorless coconut oil has had the MCTs and lauric acid partially processed away. It is not the same product. 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon daily. Added to warm morning drinks, green tea, herbal tea, or warm water with ginger, where it melts smoothly and begins its work immediately. Used for gentle cooking at moderate heat, it is more stable than olive oil at higher temperatures. Applied to dry skin, aging hands, stiff knee and hip joints, as a deeply penetrating topical oil with direct anti-inflammatory effects on the tissues it contacts. The ancient healers of Okinawa and the Pacific did not know about MCTs or ketone bodies or lauric acid. They knew that this oil made people feel better, that it kept them sharper, stronger, and more resilient into old age. Modern science has simply confirmed what 4,000 years of human observation already knew. 5 oils. 5,000 years of wisdom. 2 ancient traditions that arrive at the same truth from opposite ends of the world. The body already knows how to heal. It simply needs what it has always needed. Real oils. Cold-pressed, unrefined whole. Given consistently. Given with intention. Given as the daily act of care that the body has always deserved. Everything we explored today is available to you. But quality matters more than quantity. 1 genuine cold-pressed healing oil used daily for a year will do more for your health than a shelf full of refined substitutes used occasionally. Cold-pressed, unrefined, dark glass. These 3 words will guide you to the real version of every oil on this list. If this video brought you even one idea, one small seed of healing, please share it with someone you love. A parent, a neighbor, a friend who is navigating the senior years and looking for gentle, natural ways to feel better. Because that is why this channel exists. Not to sell anything. Not to alarm anyone. but to share calmly, honestly, carefully, the ancient wisdom that kept the longest living people in human history healthy, clear-minded, and at peace well into their 100th year. And to remind every senior watching, you are not too old to heal. You are exactly the right age to begin. Subscribe for new Japanese healing wisdom every single week. Use good oil. Cook with intention. Rest deeply. And take extraordinary care of this one precious life you have been given.